Well, hi there. Welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. And today I'm going to do a video talking about the current Saints drama. And I'm going to take the perspective that I think all of us Who Dat Nation Saints fans should take is what the F did we expect? Now, I'm not really on X slash Twitter too much. Rosenfield 10, I'm there. I post my videos there. Not a lot of interaction going on there. I don't hang around and flip through the timeline, but I hear a lot of Saints content providers in the media referring to X slash Twitter and what's going on there all the time. Like this is a whole other world on its own. And if you're in it, you know, and if you're not, seems a little ridiculous to me sometimes. I mean, there's certain ones that focus on how their interactions on X goes with Saints fans, but most of the time they just refer to it and they talk about the buzz on X, what the Saints fans are saying. And for the last couple of weeks, it's just been a crap show for this organization. And it's to me, it's kind of stunning that anyone would be surprised about this at all. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the head coaching search, but the basic ineptitude of this organization over the last couple of weeks. And with every new step, someone's doing a video talking about it, and oh my God, I can't believe this happened, and what does this look like? It's the optics that a lot of them are saying that this is really bad. The optics are bad. No, the truth is the whole thing's bad. And I don't even know why anyone feels like it's newsworthy. Okay. I would rather be talking about lots of other stuff. To me, the draft is the fun thing. It's the one thing that you can look forward to, and it's actually something that could benefit your team and make your team a lot better. Chances are we miss. It's all uh, guessing anyway right now, but that's what it is about all of the current Saints drama. This coaching search. Everyone says Aaron Glenn was the Saints' preferred choice. He was the Saints' number one choice. How do we know? How do we really know? Well, you watch the actions of the organization. You see who they set up interviews with. You see who they pursue real hard. They have a second interview with, stuff like that. You know, they don't come out and say it. They're never going to come out and say it. Yeah, Aaron Glenn's our number one choice. Well, then they're not going to interview anybody else. Everybody else is going to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to get the job. So you're never going to hear an admission from this organization. But what blows me away is that everyone that covers the Saints immediately says that was their coach of choice. And I don't know if they were going to have a thorough coaching search, then they wouldn't just be blown away and hire the very first person they pursued, interviewed. He's the guy, you get him no matter what. Well, then he was the guy all along, that kind of thing. Okay, that would be obvious. And I think if Aaron Glenn would have interviewed with the Saints and there was a chance to get this job and we got Aaron Glenn, then we could have all safely said, yeah, he was definitely their number one choice, especially if they're not interviewing anybody else. But they're interviewing a lot of people that to me aren't, it's just not very impressive, the list. I mean, I don't know. I could have done my own investigation into college coaches or assistants around the league and then, try to determine whether somebody would be good to pursue. But when you meet these people face to face, sometimes you just look at a guy and you're like, nah, I don't think he would be a good head coach. You know, you got to sit down and talk to him, right? I'm not afforded that opportunity. We, as Saints fans, aren't. And a lot of these reporters who might have connections, it's just that I just don't believe everything they say. I refuse to believe it. Maybe I'm glass half empty after all. Kind of feel like I'm glass half full when it comes to this Saints drama because I'm actually trying to find the positive out of worst case scenario. But in order for my mind to go to worst case scenario, I have to be glass half empty, right? I'm going off on a tangent here. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about why the Saints organization is in shambles. My vote is for Mickey Loomis, and Gail Benson refuses to fire him, replace him, shake things up. So we hear that Mickey Loomis has some help in the last couple of years. We've brought back Randy Mueller as a consultant, and then Dave Ziegler, who was a consultant as well. And when we got him, he had just been fired as the GM of the Raiders. And the Raiders, throughout the last really decade, has been one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the league. So you tell me Ziegler's coming over to be some sort of a consultant. We've already got Dennis Allen as our head coach and Derek Carr as our quarterback. I'm thinking Joe Woods as the defensive coordinator. I'm thinking we're just turning into the Raiders. But then somebody told me, no, no, no. Ziegler originally came from the Patriots. Well, originally came from the Broncos, and he was kind of like a scout and then player personnel, but more like pro personnel. And then some of the scouting personnel, the college personnel. And then eventually, I think the highest he got with New England was director of personnel, and then ended up getting a GM job with the Raiders. So part of me was thinking Ziegler might be good because he was with the Patriots. Patriots like to trade down, in drafts. And so I'm thinking if this guy's coming in, he's coming in and he's advising. And his original role when we hired him before this past year, we brought him on as a temporary consultant to the draft of 2024. And we didn't trade down in that draft. And then I looked into Ziegler and was like, oh, when he was with the Patriots, he was basically just the benefit of raises, promotions, because everyone ahead of him was going on to do other things. He ends up being director of personnel because the guy that was there ended up the GM at, I think, Houston. So yeah, I'm not impressed with Ziegler. Matter of fact, the only chance he had to be a GM was with the Raiders. Whatever. So Ziegler now has left. He was supposed to be part of this coaching search, along with Mickey Loomis and Randy Mueller and whoever else. I can't keep up with all of it. I mean, these guys are consultants, advisors, whatever, but basically the general manager is Mickey Loomis, and whatever he chooses is what's going to happen. I think it's evident. We never trade down. We never will. We will never trade down. We're not going to acquire extra picks. As good as this move looks like it was, trading Lattimore for a third and a fourth rounder and a sixth rounder, as good as that move looks right now, eh, Mickey Loomis probably had to have his arm twisted. You know, we usually when we bail on players, it's when they're hitting their prime and we haven't utilized them correctly. I'm going to talk about the S show that is the Saints. And I'm going to talk about it the way it should be talked about by everybody. Now, what's been bothering me is Saints content providers constantly bringing this stuff up. And so I feel like I really don't want to do this. Get it all in one video. I haven't been making videos about all of this for the last 2 weeks. I'll put it all in one video. But I think I have a different outlook for the eventual outcome than a lot of these people do. I mean, I don't know what they're expecting, whether it's Saints fans on Twitter or whether it's the media. Let's not be too up in the air and crazy about all of this. We should have expected it. What the F do we expect? Mickey Loomis is our general manager. He doesn't want to fire Dennis Allen, even though we're on a 7-game losing streak. Gail Benson has to have advisors tell her to do it. And then Mickey Loomis still can't come out and do anything. He can't even manage to have the fans like him by coming out and talking and saying something that is an asinine. So Mickey Loomis is a detriment to me. He's made a couple of good moves in his career with the Saints, and it's time to move on from Mickey Loomis, but it's not going to happen. So, is he the reason why coaches don't want to come here? Maybe. There was the report that that's the reason why Aaron Glenn didn't come. He wanted to have Mickey Loomis removed. And it's a bad look, right? The optics. No, it's just bad. I don't know if he really feels that way about Dennis Allen, but I think Aaron Glenn wanted the Jets job. He went to the Jets. That's where he really wanted to be, and I'm content with that. If Mickey Loomis was removed and somebody else was put in there, would it make the job more attractive? Probably. Probably a lot more attractive. Well, how can you say that? Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson, they're so patient and they will give you time. They'll give you years to fail before they even get off their hands and consider doing something else. So the ineptitude of the head coach search is even more apparent, and it's because of Mickey Loomis being here. When we don't even pursue Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson, fool's errand to pursue those guys who are definitely going to tell you no. I mean, you never really know until you try, but we're not going to try. So Loomis is conscious of the optics of that. Let's not pursue people we know we're not going to get, but then get up in front of the mic and smack you gum and compare Dennis Allen to future Hall of Fame head coaches. He doesn't have the vision to avoid something like that. You know, when Loomis said the we don't have to sell the job, we just we know we're going to get a guy because we're one of 32. I don't know. I don't know. You might have to sell it to somebody you really want that really wouldn't want to come here. But how do you sell a big pile of crap? Well, if you turn your nose downwind and upwind, avoid the smell, it's not so bad some of the time. Yeah, the reason why he said we can't sell this job, it's one of 32, because he knows that somebody that's desperate enough for a head coaching job, head coaching opportunity, would take the job eventually. Could be the worst coach in the world, possibly why Mike Kafka's had 2 interviews. But somebody's going to take the job. Somebody's probably going to fail miserably, but somebody's going to take the job. And my number one requirement for a head coach for the Saints, God, I hope he's good. But my number one requirement right now in the state of this franchise is that the guy wants the job. It might be the last job, the last choice that he has, but if he takes it, that means he wants it, and that's good enough for me. Yeah, I want us to get better, but right now in this S show of a situation we're in, a situation that we're in, the Saints drama, the current state of the Saints, what everybody's been talking about for 2 weeks. And then they bring it up again now, and it's like, oh God, we've heard it over and over again. The reason why you keep bringing it up is because you keep asking questions. Why does this keep happening? What the F did we expect? No salary cap room at all. We're going to have to make major adjustments to contracts just to get enough money to sign the rookie class, much less be a player in free agency. So you're not improving the team, not on your terms, not with the ammunition you would have with any other franchise. You would have more money. So that's the number one part of it. Number two, you have a bad team. Your best players are old. You have an old, bad team. You can't make it any better, and it's just going to get worse. Number three, you don't have the quarterback. You have a good little stopgap who's taking a big chunk of your salary cap. You might be able to manage 8-8, 7-9, which wouldn't be bad for a first year head coach. Can you stay competitive with Derek Carr until you can get this salary cap under control? Well, you're going to have to build your team through the draft, which means you're going to have to nail your draft picks. I don't know if we can do that with Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland and Kai Harley and Dennis Lauscha and whoever else has a say in it. Because I don't feel like the drafts over the last 10 years have been all that great. We've had a couple of pretty good ones, and we've had some good players in every draft, but we miss on a lot of them, and we don't utilize the good ones when we have them a lot of the times. We just don't. I can see Zach Bond going somewhere else. He was never going to get on the field ahead of Demario Davis or Pete Werner. But he gets on the field after being coached by a great linebacker coach in Michael Hodges. He gets on the field for the Eagles and he's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Well, you know, I, I don't fault the Saints for that. I mean, I wouldn't put Zach Bond ahead of Demario Davis. I might this year if Davis retires and Bond was still on the team. Now would finally be his chance to start at middle linebacker. But he's a good player. He's a good tackler. He's not very good in coverage. So Zach Bond is just okay. But he's making it happen because he's able to start. I can see Zach Bond going away. Trey Hendrickson, I'll never forgive. He gets 13 sacks for you, and then you let him walk because you don't want to pay him a big contract, but you keep Marcus Davenport anyway, and you think you have a better player. But Davenport had shown he couldn't stay healthy. Now, one year he stayed healthy and played 11 games and got 9 sacks. So Davenport was a productive player, but Trey Hendrickson stayed healthy too. So that decision, I blame the Saints, and I'll never forgive him for that. Hendrickson will probably win Defensive Player of the Year this year. So the Saints looking for a head coach. This awful situation that we're in. I'm thinking, of course, your top two guys are Aaron Glenn and Joe Brady. They were here before. It seems like they might want the job. And so to me, that's the top two candidates. But as a reporter, I wouldn't be going out there saying their preferred choice was Aaron Glenn and Joe Brady. That was their number one and number two choice, and they didn't get it, so they suck. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's pretty obvious that they're on the top of the list. Might be their preferred choice. Probably their preferred choice. But they're never going to admit it. Unless they get the guy, they're never going to admit it. If they sign Mike Kafka as a head coach, they're going to say, we got the guy we wanted all along. Probably say that. And there might be some truth to it. Mickey Loomis is having to hit a home run grand slam. He's having to do hiring Sean Payton all over again. And if he sees something in Mike Kafka that makes him think he's the next Sean Payton, then maybe that is the kind of the guy deep down he wanted all along. In his mind, in his fantasy of, no, this guy, we can unlock the potential. It can all turn around. And despite all the struggles before, he's a brilliant young guy. And all of a sudden, boom, we're off and running. People love Kafka. He would bring in Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator would be, I forgot who they said, but yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of coaches around the league that wouldn't mind working for him. So he'd be able to assemble a staff. I'm just saying. Now, am I glass half empty for thinking that that wouldn't be such a bad choice when everybody else says, God, no? I mean, look at it. He's the offensive coordinator for the Giants, and they suck. Well, he's not the play caller for the Giants. The last time he was the play caller for the Giants, they went to the playoffs. So I don't know. Organizations can build you a bad team. Head coaches can make awful decisions, and you can be a coordinator and just be in the middle of some S show. So I don't know. I think I'm glass half full for thinking Mike Kafka might be a decent coach. I don't know. Got to get in a room with him and see. We've had 2 interviews with him. We've had 2 interviews with Anthony Weaver, too, a one time defensive coordinator for 1 year with the Miami Dolphins. He looks like he could be a leader of men, too. I've never gotten in a room with these guys. Eh, Miami's defense was okay this year, in the top, around the top 10 in a lot of categories. So as far as production goes, he's got the skins on the wall this past year that Kafka doesn't. But I thought Aaron Glenn and Joe Brady would be the top two guys that we would pursue. But quite honestly, I thought the guys we would end up getting would either be John Gruden or just Darren Rizzi. That's what I thought was going to happen. Because I didn't think anybody would want this job. Who would want this job? When you become a new head coach, you're going to a situation where the team's bad, usually, almost every time. That's why they're looking for a head coach. They fired their head coach because they had a bad season, and you're hoping you can show up and turn the thing around. You're always going into a bad situation, but there's a chance you're going to go into a situation with a top five draft pick with a lot of money under the salary cap, and that's a way better situation. Who wants to come here and have the ninth overall pick with no money? When the Saints are interviewing head coaching candidates right now, the first hour of the interview, I would be like, "How the hell are we going to have money?" Come on, Kai. This is the reason why the interview takes 8 hours because before we go out to eat, I need you to sit down here and tell me where are we going to find the money? And then when Kai explains how you have to keep old players just to have enough money to sign your rookies, the restaurant better be good because I'm already ready to go home. This is just an awful job. What the F did we expect? Well, I expected it. So am I glass half empty because I expected the worst? No, I'm looking at the truth. This team's bad. That's the reason we have a bad situation. If I'm Mike McCarthy, I don't care how close I am with Mickey Loomis. We could be the best of friends. Go golfing all the time. Yeah. Mickey, I'm not coming right now. I'm going to let you get out salary cap hell. And I'll come next year if you have a top two, top three draft pick. I'll come the year after that if you have a top two, top three draft pick. But chances are I'll be somewhere else. But I'm definitely not taking your job right now. I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm taking a year off. I'll be playing golf a lot more without you because you'll be working. And then next year, I'll just take the Giants job when they go 3-14 this year and definitely fire their head coach. I'll just take the Giants job and then I'll get my quarterback of the future and uh, I'll be in a much better situation. I'll be in a much better situation than the situation you have going on in New Orleans right now. So you ready to go get some lunch? Let's go. That's how every meeting's going. We might want to pursue Cliff Kingsbury. We might have had Liam Cohen on our radar, and we end up pursuing Anthony Weaver and Mike Kafka. And of course, we're going to have second interviews with those guys because that's our options. That's what we're working with. We're not going to have. Okay, so if Kellen Moore wants to come here, wow. Can you bring Saquon Barkley with you? Probably not. No. Okay, shucks. Can you do this? Can you repeat the same with Alvin Kamara? Or are we just going to draft Ashton Genty? And man, for a team that the fans say we need pass rushing defensive ends, and I keep saying we need run stopping defensive linemen because until you can run the ball and stop the run, you're not going anywhere. The Eagles are in the Super Bowl this year. They passed the ball fewer than any other team in the league. Well, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl and they pass the ball a ton. So, but the Chiefs are kind of like the odd guy out because if you look at every other team that was in the playoffs, a lot of great running teams, and I think that was the biggest key to Philadelphia's success with Kellen Moore as their OC to run the ball. When you have a quarterback that's not the greatest passer, you run the ball. You do, and to Moore's credit, he's had lots of different quarterbacks, lots of different offenses. I don't know what kind of offense he would want if he could start from scratch in New Orleans. But if Kellen Moore is going to go from being in the Super Bowl to being our head coach in this situation, he's going to have some kind of guarantees. This 8 hour interview is going to have to go on for another 8 hours because I'd have to cross every T and dot every I because I don't know where the money's coming from. I don't know how we acquire a new quarterback. I don't know if I like the options that he might want to pursue at quarterback in the draft. Jalen Milrow, you know, I hear Ross saying, "Hey, people people thought Jaden Daniels was a running quarterback and he'd have to get better as a passer." But look, he's good. No, no, no. Jaden Daniels is a good passer. Okay, I wouldn't even compare Jalen Hurts to Jalen Milrow. I would compare Tim Tebow to the passer of that's Jalen Milrow, the passer. Okay, I would be comparing a lot of other really bad throwing quarterbacks to Jalen Milrow. But as a runner, he's probably Michael Vick. So is that what we're going to do with Kellen Moore? I don't know because that running game, that was the key to Philadelphia's success. You know what I would think if Kellen Moore becomes our coach, I would hope he'd want to do similar to what he had with the Eagles, build up the offensive line, build up the defensive line. And I'm glad Moore can work with any quarterback and he can make it all work. That would be nice. If he's a brilliant enough coach to be able to design offenses based on the personnel, then really all he's missing is can he be a leader of men? So the lateral moves by the coaches we had, Clint Kubiak goes to be the OC with Seattle. Mike Hodges, the linebacker coach, goes to Cincinnati to be the linebacker coach there. So no problem. That there's no bad optics there. I'm taking a job. I can sit here and be nice with my former boss and not have a job, or I can go get a job. Yeah, go get a job. Chances are they're all going to be fired with the new head coach that comes in anyway. So I think about Sean Payton and Drew Brees. They wanted to go to Miami. Let's get that straight. Sean Payton had two head coaching interviews, Miami and New Orleans. He wanted to go with Miami. I think Miami hired Nick Saban, right? And so Sean Payton wanted to be a head coach. New Orleans was his last choice. Who wants that situation? The situation the Saints are in right now is nothing compared to what we were after 2005. We weren't 3-13 last year. We were 5-12. We weren't displaced, wondering if our stadium was even going to be open or whether for the season or whether we were even going to stay in New Orleans. And yeah, we had a really bad football team back then too. We weren't that good. It was a bad situation. We were having to go get a quarterback. We lucked out. We went and got Drew Brees. Why? Because he only had two jobs to get, Miami and New Orleans. And apparently Miami wasn't satisfied with the medicals on Drew Brees. So they signed what? Dante Culpepper. And Drew Brees came here. Now, both Sean Payton and Drew Brees would rather be somewhere else, but they accepted the challenge to come here. Now, whether that was selfishly because he wanted to be a head coach and he wanted to be a starting quarterback and get paid $10 million a year or whatever, selfishly, at this point, I don't care what their motivation was. If they put pen to paper and signed the contract and committed for this awful post Katrina challenge, then they deserve everything that they get. And what we got was greatness. So that's the one stipulation. That's my one requirement for a head coach that you want to be here. I don't care why. You want to be a head coach. This is your chance. Despite how awful the situation is, you're willing to try. That's all I can ask for. And hopefully, whoever we get's a good coach. If we hire Mike Kafka and he turns out to be the next Sean Payton, are any of us going to pat Mickey Loomis on the back? Probably not. We're probably going to think he just lucked out because I'm here to say we should expect this. But eventually, we're going to get a head coach. Eventually, we're going to put something together. And next year, I think I'm going to be glass full or glass half empty, half full, half empty. It's really up to you. And I'm going to think that we're not going to be good, but we're going to end up with a good draft pick and we're going to get a quarterback. Now, I'm thinking positively and negatively at this. I'm expecting us to be bad, but I'm expecting us to rise from the ashes. So the final thought here, whoever we get as head coach is going to need at least 3 years. It's going to take 2 years before you get under the salary cap to a decent level. And it's going to take 2 to 3 years before you satisfy some of the positional need that you need, especially, most importantly, quarterback. So does a young, unproven coach come in here and get a 5 year contract? Yeah, that's a that's a tough deal. I don't know if I expect that, but I do expect us to struggle. And I expected the drama that we're going through right now. So this is the one video covering all of it. I'm not going to linger on it. Why do we just keep lingering on it? And then we ask the questions like, why is this happening? And we know why. We know why. You sit in the interview to be the head coach of the Saints, and I mean, how many questions you have to ask as the applicant? Well, how the hell are we going to do this? What the hell are we going to, what's going to happen with this guy? You expect me to start this 40-year-old? You know? Oh my. Anyway, I'm Joe. I am your friend or your coworker who loves the Saints as much as you do. Our beloved, bless you boys, in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. We've got a long, hard road ahead of us. This breaks down all of the drama and ultimately how we should, as Saints fans, feel about it. We should expect this. And as long as Gail Benson doesn't fire Mickey Loomis, we should expect more of the same. But under these conditions, we have risen from the ashes and thrived like never before. So I'm going to be positive and say, whoever we get as head coach, I hope it turns out well. Because I'm not smart enough and don't know these people to say which one's my favorite candidate anyway. My favorite candidate is the one that succeeds. And we won't know that for probably 2 to 3 years. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?